Let's jump on in and take a look at Stratify. So I'm going to work my way from left to right with these different icons. We have to select some layers. It always works with whatever layers are selected. So for Ascend, when we click it, it's going to offset each layer by 1 frame. On Ascend, it always works from the bottommost layer to the top. And so we can just click it and offset by 1 frame at a time. Now, if I hold down Control, it's going to offset by -1 frame. We can also offset by 10 frames by holding down Shift. And now if I hold down Shift and Control, it'll offset by a -10. Now the other nice thing here is we can sort by label groups. So often I will organize my timeline based off layer groups or label groups here with different colors. And so if we hold down Alt, we can offset them by label groups. Now, as long as the colors are contiguous, meaning that they're next to each other in the timeline, they're considered a group. So now if I hold down Alt and Control, I can offset by -1. And then I can also do Alt and Shift to offset by 10. Now if I hold down Alt, Shift, and Control, that'll be -10 for the color groups here. So like I said, if I take this layer here and move it up in the stack, and if I go and sort by label groups, you can see that this pink here is considered its own group because it is not by any other groups with the same color. So let me undo that. So we also have Descend here, and works just like Ascend, but it works from the topmost layer down. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that since it's the same. We also have Random, so we can randomize the endpoint. And if I just say OK, pretty simple there. We can also hold down Alt, like it says here, and do label groups. So that works out pretty nice. Now we also have Sequence. So Sequence works just like the native sequence within After Effects. It works in the selection order. So if I select from the bottom to the top, it'll sequence them in that order. And then if we hold down Alt as well here, it'll sequence them according to their label group. Now, a unique feature that we have here in Stratify are patterns. So pattern offset. So let me jump over to this comp where I have a bunch of circles and I'm going to select everything. Now we can scroll through the different patterns here. And then we also can just use the drop down if we want as well. So let's just start with this basic right here. And if we apply it, our layers are going to come on based off the comp position. So the position they are in the comp here. And as we can see, we're going to go from left to right. And right now, this first row comes on at the same time because they all have the same X value. And then if we move 1 frame forward, all these layers had the same X value as well, and so on. Let me undo that. We can also make sure that each layer has its own unique endpoint. So if I hold down Alt and apply, so now every layer has its own unique endpoint. And as you can see, we have a lot of different patterns here. Currently there's 14, and there's some room for a few more patterns that I have in mind. So this makes for a great way to bring layers on within your comp. But let's take a look at how you might use it in a real project. So in this comp, I have this living room and everything scales up at the same time with a little bit of overshoot. But let's take a look at how we can use Stratify to make this a little bit better looking. So I have everything selected and I have some layers parented to others, mostly parts of the couch. So let's go ahead and change this. Let's go to Outward X and go ahead and apply this. And so now everything is scaling on from the center of the comp, like we can see in this little preview window, out to the edges. And that looks pretty good. One thing that's off a little bit here is this shelf. It's coming on after the elements that are on the shelf. So let's go ahead and undo that. Let's come out here and select the shelf. And let's go ahead and move the anchor point to the left-hand side. And so now let's select everything and let's go ahead and run this again. And let's do a RAM preview. And that looks a lot better. So we can adjust the timing of these elements if they're not quite right. just by adjusting the anchor point, since it's looking at the position of the anchor point to set the timing. So those are the main functions of Stratify. Let's take a look at the sorting functions. So we have a number of ways that we can sort layers as well. So let's jump over to this comp. And by default here, when we're on sort, we're going to sort by endpoint. So I can sort ascending or descending. And then we can also randomize our order of our layers. And when we're on any of these sorting modes, this button here is always set to random order. And then we also have reverse order. So we just want to reverse the order of our layers in our comp. And then we can take a look at the other sorting options that we have here as well. So if I want to just sort by position, ascending, and I think most of these are pretty self-explanatory. I don't think they need a lot of explaining. Please let me know if there's other sorting options that you would like to see, and maybe I can get those added in there for you. So another sorting type that we have that is unique to Stratify is sorting by layer type. Let me jump over to another project to show you how it works. Here's a visual effects shot that I was working on, and as you can see in my timeline, I don't have a lot of layers, so this would be easy to sort. But if I had a comp with a lot of layers in here and I want to sort by layer type, could take a little bit of time to get things organized. So again, this works on layers that are selected. So I'm going to just select everything, and I'm going to make sure that it can be on any of these sorting modes, because this button, once we're in sort, it's always sorts by layer type. And so when I sort by layer type, over here in my active layer types, all my layers are going to sort according to this list over here. Now, I do have a camera. I don't have any lights, and so I can either remove it or I can leave it. Since I don't have any lights in my comp, it's going to go ahead and ignore that. Now, I do have nulls. I have a null here, and so right now it would put the cameras at the top of my comp, and then nulls would be second, and then adjustment layers would be third, and then track mats at the bottom. This primary category here cannot be removed. So if you want to remove an item here, you can go ahead and remove it to the inactive list. Now, primary cannot be moved because anything that is not specifically designated over here becomes part of the primary group. And that helps keep all your layers that make up the bulk of the visuals in the same order so that things don't get placed in the wrong order. So as you can see, we can also add audio, guide layers, pre-comp, shape layers, solids, and text. So if I want to target those specific types of layers to move them specifically within my comp, I can do that. Now I can also remove everything from the active list, or I can add everything just by holding down Shift and clicking. So if I hold down Shift and click, all we have is primary. So basically, since only primary is present right now, nothing would happen over here. All these layers would be considered primary, and they're going to stay in the same order. So let's go ahead and put some layer types back over here. Let's go to cameras. Let's go ahead and add that. We do have adjustment layers, so let's go ahead and add that. We also have a track mat. Let's go ahead and add that. Now I want my track mat to be at the bottom. I'm going to put my camera at the top, and I want my adjustment layer above the primary. And so let's just go ahead and say okay. And so here we go. Really quickly, we went ahead and organized our comp. And again, it will only work on the selected layers. So you don't have to adjust everything within your comp. If you want to just do a selection within your comp, you can do that as well. So that's the basics of Stratify. I hope you enjoy it. Hope it saves you some time. And if you see other modes that you'd like to see added, please reach out. Thanks for watching.